the law. We worked so hard to get a law passed in this state, which was totally ignored, and that is that responsible parties are supposed to, we have laws governing the administration, and you have to have informed parental or judicial authorization, and that did not happen, and it's not happening all over the state. There was a memo that I know that you had received, Madam Chair, from Tom Arnold,
Yes.
regarding the issue of whether or not this psychiatrist appropriately or inappropriately prescribed psychotropic drugs. And I guess what's bothering me is the whole concept of how we follow up and figure out whether or not someone is or isn't prescribing drugs inappropriately. There's a contract with the University of South Florida to track prescribing medications, but to go back to what you said, Madam Chair, I mean, you have people prescribing drugs. I mean, they have 75 to 100 doctors a year that are way out of whack in the numbers, not necessarily. Well, they say that a flag prescription doesn't necessarily mean that it's a bad prescription, depending on whether or not you believe that children should be on psychotropic drugs altogether. But it appears to me that there's just way too much leeway for doctors to be able to prescribe this without going through, some other process first, rather than resorting immediately or almost immediately to psychotropic drugs.
And for the record, I referred the prescribing physician to the Board of Medical Examiners for investigations. More broadly, that when there are psychiatrists and other doctors who are being routinely contacted by professionals in the state and being given red flag letters over and over and over again, in my opinion, the department has an affirmative obligation and a duty to take a look at those physicians and to take a look at their prescribing practices. And there should be a policy that the department takes and that says, okay, we know that this doc has been sent letters from a state agency multiple times on their prescribing practices. That triggers a certain level of due diligence on our part, and now we need to take another look at to either determine whether or not this is a fair prescribing practice or whether or not we think it extends beyond what is comfortable for or acceptable to the department, and the department terminates relationships with that physician.
I mean, in this it says that this particular doctor, he wrote over 10,000 mental health prescriptions to Medicaid patients between a period of time of less than 2 years, making him the 73rd most prolific mental health prescriber in Medicaid out of around 3,900, providers. Now, I mean, what they're saying here is they really can't make a value judgment about his prescribing pattern. But I think that there's something missing here if you can be that prolific a prescriber, particularly to children, prescribing psychotropic drugs to children. There's something that's just not connecting for me.
These are highly addictive, mind-altering drugs.
And the reason a doctor can make 10,000 prescriptions is because agencies and groups, including school districts, create relationships with doctors. And the doctor knows when that kid is sent there by that particular outfit what they want. They want you to prescribe Ritalin. They want you to prescribe something that's going to contain the kid's behavior, and they don't have to know much about your kid to write that prescription. That's why you can write 10,000 of them in a year, because it's real easy. It takes 5 minutes. And there has been punishment. Hopefully school districts have stopped this, but the parents were told, unless you put your kid on Ritalin in the first grade, he's never going to the second grade because he's a behavior problem. So what choice do you have? So lots of problems, and I would presume that we're going to have a committee bill come out of this.
The question I think now, Biggs, is the people who are providing the Ritalin, are they supporting these schools financially? Have we tracked that or tried to look at that process? Then is there a monetary, are we looking at that in terms of following the money part here? Can we add that into our committee bill, that we begin to do some kind of tracking there? Because I'm just really concerned that if it's not the school making a profit of it, is it the doctor making a profit or a relationship, whether it be monetary or whether it be gifts or whatever?
Right. And so when you put this chemical straitjacket on these children, you just flatten out everything. And that has long-term ramifications to that child. And many of us on the committee, and maybe all of us on the committee, do not accept that the only way to reach a child who's been in psychological trauma is through psychotropic drugs. For instance, the military will not even accept children, if you admit to having been on psychotropic drugs as a child, including Ritalin, they don't accept you. You are not permitted to be accepted into the military and to join the military. I mean, that's how seriously this has an impact on the whole rest of this child's life, to say nothing of the brain development. And so I would just really encourage people who are not convinced of this issue, if there are any people that way, just think about what happens to a regular developmentally normal child who's having a bad day, who, you know, and the behaviors that they can exhibit, which can be very dramatic. Just compound that when these children have had major traumas happen to them, and we should not be just knee-jerk psychotropically medicating them.